some folks coming in from Houston, from New York, Jefferson, Weatherford, Oklahoma. All right. Hey, Tim, it's a first one. That's a first. Cool. Ocean City, Maryland, from Marianne. All right. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 5 lies that are draining all of the wealth that you could hope to create. Actually, you're going to learn that you are already generating wealth. Some of you who've been with us for a while understand that. You know that that's what we've been teaching. But what we're going to be talking about tonight is the 5 lies that have been kind of, I guess you could say, treated as or considered the like 5 rules to live by when it comes to personal finance. And so we're going to and I think I've got do I have the right one? Let's see. No, I've got the wrong window open here. So let me get that back. Okay. There we go. All right, let's try it again. Gotta love doing stuff live because it really tests your ability to do more than 4 things at once. Nope, that's not the wrong one. Here we go. And we should be good. All right. So let me get the screen ready to be shared. And to do that, we want this one. Actually, let's cancel that. Too many windows. Let me see if I can move this over to another screen. I get some space here, and we want to share that. Yes. All right. So hopefully what you can see now is the presentation that says exposing the trillion-dollar payment matrix. I got my windows dancing around like crazy. And the 5 wealth draining lies that keep you chained to your job until you drop dead. Sounds a little bit, what would you say? It might sound a little doom and gloomish, but there's good news. And so I'm going to go ahead and get right to it. So right now, as you're listening to this presentation, you're hemorrhaging money, thousands of dollars every single month, and you have no idea it's happening. Now, some of you who have been with us for a while, you do know. And some of this stuff might be a little bit of a repeat for you, but it never hurts to hear it another time. The average person generates between $2.3 million, 2 and 3 millions, excuse me, generates between $2 and $3 million during their working lifetime. And this is the thing that always kind of got me going, is that if you won the lottery tomorrow and you won $3 million, you'd be celebrating and you'd be, feeling like your life has changed, probably quit your job. But when you spread those millions of dollars over a few decades, you begin to feel broke. And that's not an accident because that's actually by design. Maybe you're struggling paycheck to paycheck, or maybe you think you're doing great and you're doing fine. You've got all of your payments made, all of your bills are taken care of every month, and you've got a few $100s left over. Either way, what you're going to see tonight is that you're getting robbed blind by what I call the payment matrix. Just like the Matrix movie, they drained humans until they died and replaced them with fresh bodies. This system is draining your financial life right from you. And, it has your kids and grandkids lined up after you to take your place. So remember the scene, and this is one that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The bald kid and Neo walks in and he's going to meet the Oracle. And what's going on is he sees this little bald kid and he's looking at a spoon and the spoon is bending. And Neo's like, what the heck? How is that? How are you doing that? And so the secret is what the kid tells him is that there is no spoon. And the Matrix wanted people to believe that the spoon was there because that would limit what they thought was possible. And the payment matrix, it kind of does the exact same thing. It wants you to believe that you have to make a choice. You either have to pay your bills for today or save money for tomorrow. Live today, plan for tomorrow, that there's this choice with every dollar that you have to make. And that's what's keeping thousands of dollars flowing from your family into this $1 trillion payment matrix system that I'm talking about. And just like the kid revealed to Neo that there is no spoon, there is no choice. This choice is not technically necessary. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be limited to one or the other with the choice for your precious dollars. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to hit you with 5 lies that are stealing your wealth. And let's go ahead and get to it right away. Lie number one, here we go. The millionaire lie. All right, this is the problem with the millionaire lie. You have been lied to uh, about what a millionaire is. And we're going to talk about the truth here. Lie number 2 is the budgeting lie. Make money, make payments, save scraps. This isn't financial planning. This isn't responsible money management. It's financial suicide. You're going to see what that is also about. And then one of my favorites is this one, the good debt lie. Your mortgage isn't building your wealth. A lot of people say, hey, this is my biggest investment, right? Well, we're going to talk about, I'm going to go through some of these numbers and you're going to see, wait a minute, maybe it's not the biggest investment I'm looking at. Because when you see what's going on with this good debt lie and how bankers are just literally stealing, it's one of the most massive wealth transfers ever. This makes Bernie Madoff look like a shoplifter. And then when it comes to lie number 4, the pay yourself first lie, the only one who gets paid first is Uncle Sam. I mean, look at your paycheck, right? You're paying yourself last, but that's actually your secret weapon. And I'm going to show you how that works. And you're going to learn why this is a lie. Lie number 5 is, oh, come on, stuff work for me, is the more money lie. Right now, the way you need to think about it is your income is a shovel. We're going to talk about how that works and that you're digging a hole with your shovel or you're filling a hole with a shovel. We're going to get into that so that you can see how the more money lie, this myth that if you make more money, all your problems will be solved. Well, it's actually it's like a pair of Chinese handcuffs, actually. And then there's also a bonus lie that we're going to be talking about, and that's the college funding lie. Whoops, what happened here? How'd you get to go so far? There we go. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Okay. This lie is so massive, the college funding lie, that it's got parents, basically going broke trying to put their kids through school. I mean, it's become so huge that right now there's $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. And you think about that number, 1.7 trillion, the only consumer debt that's bigger than the student loan debt is the mortgage debt, which is at right around 12.8 trillion. Parents are literally destroying their retirement and kids are mortgaging their futures. This is the crazy part before they even get a job. And this is a lie that has to be uh, dealt with because there's a much better way, which you'll see as well. Now, the biggest wealth killer isn't market crashes. It's that checking account that you opened on day one. The same checking account, like me, I've helped all my kids start checking accounts, right? Fortunately, I'm giving them all of this information that you're starting to learn here. But that account, that checking account, is how the payment matrix misleads you into thinking that there's that choice between today's needs or tomorrow's reality when it comes to your precious dollars. And that choice is what's killing you financially because every month that you stay plugged in, you're bleeding money into a system that's designed to keep you trapped until you die broke. But you're about to learn how to bend the rules because your financial, survival really depends on it. So let's go ahead and get into lie number 1, the millionaire lie. Now, this lie is the one the payment matrix desperate that they want to keep it from you because here's the truth. According to Zippia.com, a leading HR research firm, the average American is going to generate between 2 and 3 million. They say $2.7 million in work and wealth over their working lifetime. And that's not theory, that's hard data. And just take a moment to think about how much have you earned over the past decade, and how much wealth have you yet to earn in the decades to come, the years to come. And the biggest thing that people, and this is one of our like mottos or tenets, one of our core beliefs, is that it's not that you have a wealth generation problem. It's that you have a wealth accumulation problem. Because when you think about all of the money that you've generated up until this point, you start working around you're 20 years old, right? 20, 25, right in that age group, and everybody's going to be working till 60. You got 40 years of work. That is where you're going to generate a small fortune. This is a fact. Think about the last decade. Like I said, you've had hundreds of thousands of dollars slip through your fingers, and you've got, years and or decades to come. You need to learn the difference between wealth generation and wealth accumulation. When I ask people why they have so little to show for the small fortune they've already generated, I always get the same answer: payments. And all of them are doing what you're doing. They're making payments through the check banking or the bank checking account. So when you do that, welcome to the payment matrix, where you're forced to choose if your dollars will work for you today or work for you tomorrow. Meanwhile, becoming a millionaire, it seems like a joke because your cash is gone before you've earned it. Let me see what we've got coming up next. Oh, this is coming up next. Yes, I don't want to get to that point just yet. The payment matrix has spent generations convincing you that becoming a millionaire is as likely as winning the lottery. I mean, how many times do you see a big lottery? Like I think the uh, Powerball or Mega Millions was like 120 million the other day, but we've seen it into hundreds of millions of dollars. People are waiting in lines out the door trying to get these lottery tickets for a 1 in 200 and something million chance that they're going to win the money. And that's where the ironic thing really occurs to me, because these people who are counting on or hoping for some big winning, some big jackpot, they're already developing a jackpot, generating a jackpot of their own, but they don't feel that way because of the lies that we're going to be talking about. And when the payment matrix, why it wants you to not think about yourself as the millionaire in the making that you are, is because then you won't ask the question, wait a second, where are my millions going? And if you think I'm exaggerating about the $1 trillion empire, let me show you some numbers that'll make your head spin. This is what we wanted to go through. Here we go back to the millionaire stuff. Now, when it comes to the life insurance industry, according to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, they're like the nationwide industry organization that runs the life insurance industry and all the industries as far as that's concerned. Life insurance industry has cash and assets have it reached $5 trillion. So that's nothing to sneeze at. When it comes to the banking industry, they have $24 trillion. That's nearly $30 trillion combined. So how do you accumulate $30 trillion by selling death benefits that you really rarely pay the death benefit usually never gets paid out with most life insurance policies. You systematically, this is the way the banking industry and the life insurance industry works. Like I said, life insurance companies, they don't insure you unless they're supremely confident. After they poke and prod you every way from Sunday to make sure that you're healthy enough that they're going to offer you a life insurance contract. If you're not, you don't get offered the contract because you're a poor risk. So you pay for death benefit that will be, what are the chances of death benefit getting paid out on the majority of contracts? Like, I don't know. Talk about getting struck by lightning while you're getting, attacked by sharks. Who knows? But when it comes to the banking industry, where do they make their money? They make it from fractional lending. And this is where they take a dollar that's on deposit and they can lend out the $10 on deposit, rake in a whole bunch of interest on those loans, but whose dollars are they lending? Without getting to all the weeds and the details about what happens when you sign up for you sign a contract to open up a bank account. They're using your dollars, our dollars, to make what we've seen about $24 trillion. That's insane. Now, what you're going to be learning here for the rest of the lies is that you're going to learn what you'll learn will make you responsible for your future. So it's kind of like a warning for you. If you prefer blissful ignorance, take the blue pill. But if you're ready to learn how to unplug and for your sake and the sake of your legacy, then get ready for your red pill because the millionaire lie, you are a millionaire in the making. You have been, you have always been, your children will be, your grandchildren will be. And that money, that hundreds of thousands of dollars that's being generated, 2 to 3 million over a working lifetime, it's being generated. What you need to learn is how to accumulate the wealth you're already generating. And the remaining lies are going to show you where the fortune is going because you might be sitting there thinking, hey, Tony, wait a minute. If I've got all this money, how come most of the people I know are working paycheck to paycheck or they're, maybe doing okay. They're maybe they're doing better than most, but how many people do you know are sitting on $1 million in cash? Probably not many. So let's get through to the next lie. This is this is the blissful ignorance or red pill, time to choose. The budgeting lie. This is the one that where the heist begins. It's pretty crazy. I mean, believing that sticking to a budget makes you financially responsible is a complete joke. Why? Because budgeting is like financial suicide. And there's three traps here that I'm going to be talking about. And I just kind of gave you a preview of the first one. But there are three traps that are involved in every budget technique that I'm going to reveal. And because of these three traps, you're getting 25% of your gross income or more is lining the pockets of the banks. And as you kind of saw before, the first trap is the focus trap. You make your budget, you pay your bills, and if anything's left over, you celebrate and you're like, oh, great, I'm financially responsible. But you're celebrating with crumbs. You're celebrating over the crumbs while someone, the banks, steals your entire meal. Let's see, I've got a client. Oh, and then there's the income corrosion trap and the purpose trap. Yes, I want to go through. What happened to my slide four? Hold on a second. I had a slide four. Where did it go? Let me do this real quick. What happened to my slide? Where did it go? Yeah, this is the one right here. All right. Now let's try. Oh, get rid of this and go back to that. There we go. Now, let's see if this is going to work. Try this again. Gotta love the technology. So let's do this one more time. Doesn't look like it's sharing. I wonder what is happening here. All right. Is this, are we having, let's see. Um, this looks like it's supposed to be running. Somebody, if you guys can give me in the chat, see if this, if my internet, which has been giving me all kinds of interesting experiences recently. Are we live? Are we Memorex? The webinar chat is still going. Let's see. I'm going to chat in here if you guys can hear me. Hear and see me. Something doesn't look right. Okay, well, Orlando says yes. All right, and you can hear me. So what am I looking at? Why, what had my Zoom, what happened to my Zoom window? Okay, and are you able to see are you seeing the presentation? Or are you looking at my mugshot here? Because I'm trying to share the presentation, but it's not showing me what I believe it should be. Okay, so you're seeing the presentation? All right, well, that's weird. Well, I'm glad to know that it's working, and I'm wasting everybody's time here. So let's pick up where we left off. Okay, so as I was saying, Sarah, can you see that the $1,200, did that blow up and get bigger? Hopefully that's working. All right. All right. So it is working. Just some weird things going on with my computer. All right. So this is what I mean by the budgeting trap and the focus trap. You focus on what's left over, the $400 in Sarah's case. And she didn't realize that she had $1,200 every month going out in pure interest, pure profit to the banks, which is 3 times more than what she was keeping for herself. That just seems backwards. And if you're wondering where the 25% comes from, that's going to show you from the income corrosion trap. This is the second trap of the budgeting lie. And this is where your financial future gets murdered in broad daylight. I'm going to show you some real numbers from a typical family I created. I call them the Fortunato family, and their numbers are based on all of the people I've worked with over the decades and national averages, things like that. So we've got the Fortunato family. They bring home $6,600 a month after they make $3,133 worth of payments, plus their living expenses for things like, not just utilities and food. I'm talking like streaming services, all the mobile phones, um, dinners, entertainment, birthday presents for their kids and their family and their kids' friends, and Christmas presents, and all of those expenses that show up every year. They have $600 in payments left over. Now, this is where it gets to be crazy because of the $3,133 in payments they're making, only $1,778, and I'd say only 17, almost 1,800 bucks is pure profit for the banks, interest. Now, what makes this even more crazy is that they have to make, they have to gross $2,500 a month to bring home just about that 18, that 1778. And they're happy with 600, but who do you think's happier? The banks who are getting $1,800 a month in pure interest? Well, they don't even know that. Most people are never aware of how much of their payments that they're making for their debt is going towards interest. And so they're blissfully, happy, I should say blissfully ignorant, the fact that, and this is what I see typically around 3 times the amount of what people are saying in families, this is what I can put away for myself without knowing it, 2 to 3, in some cases, rare occasions, 4 times of what they think they're excited about is going to the banks via interest. And then all of this is summed up by something I call the purpose trap. And this is a trap that keeps you enslaved to the payment matrix forever because you've been brainwashed into thinking that your income's purpose, you work hard, make money, you pay bills, right? You're thinking that what I do with my money is I need to go to work to generate income so I can make payments. And whatever is left over, I'm going to be happy with the table scraps and rinse and repeat until you're broke. But here is the the biggest problem is that this purpose for your income to make payments is totally wrong because there should be one and only one purpose for your income. And that purpose of your income should be to replace your income, not to budget it, not to manage it, but to replace it. You need to be thinking of the money I've got coming in. When you look at a budget and you see all the numbers on the budget, you see the income coming in, everything underneath that you're subtracting from the income, and then whatever's left over. The focus trap has you focused on that bottom number. The income corrosion trap has you losing 25% of your or more of your debt payments to interest without even knowing it. And then the purpose trap is where you think that the reason you go to work every day is to pay bills, when the reason you go to work every day is to generate income, not just to pay bills, but to generate income so that you could replace the income with the income you're generating. And when you understand this, you stop asking, how do I budget better? And you start asking, how do I buy my freedom? What do I do with the income from my work to replace the income from my work? If you want to know how much you're really paying, by the way, the calculator that we were looking at for the Fortunato and for Sarah's numbers, I call it the how much interest are you really paying calculator. And I'm going to give that to you. When I'm going to show you how to get that at the end of the webinar. So stick around, stick with us, and I'll show you how to get that in just a minute. And then here is the good debt lie. This one, as I said before, this makes Bernie Madoff blush. Okay, when you see the numbers here, you might just get a little angry. And then when you see the context that is created when you sign for your mortgage, it's ridiculous, because this is like the biggest financial scam in history. Like I said, Bernie Madoff is blushing over this one. It makes what he did look like he was stealing kids' lunch money. So let me show you exactly how this works with numbers. Let's use a $300,000, 6.75% 30-year mortgage. Okay. With that, the payment's going to be about $1,900 and change. Now, of that 6.75%, that APR, it means you'll pay 6.75% of your remaining balance every single year. This is where most people kind of get lost in the weeds. See, this is the amortization schedule. By making those payments, you'll see that the first year's payment of all the payments that were made, just over $20,000 of those payments were interest. And at $19.45 a month, that's just under $24,000. So 20,000 of the 24 is interest. Okay. In year one. In year two, 19,000 is interest. So of your payment in the early years, you may be aware of this, but the payments are heavily weighted towards interest, and you're basically not making any real progress. When it comes to the part that really should be criminal, I want you to kind of think about when you were at closing. You're drowning in this mountain of paperwork. The paperwork does a masterful job of intimidating you into you're kind of like thinking everybody's wasting their time or they're spending it on you. You're signing all these documents that you're practically getting carpal tunnel from all the signatures, and the docs are flying across the table. Everybody is acting like it's all routine. And then strategically buried somewhere in the middle of that mountain of paperwork, they slip you something called the Truth in Lending document, or it's called the TILA document, stands for Truth in Lending Act. And it's a document that reveals how much, if you make your minimum monthly mortgage payment for 30 years, how much you wind up paying for, in this case, a $300,000 house. And at the beginning, they don't show this document to you because that's when you're pretty much alert and you're really getting things going. And towards the middle, you're starting to get overwhelmed. You just want to get through it all. And then, they slip this document, and your investment, in this case, the $300,000, it shows if this was a mortgage you were signing for, that the total cost of the mortgage is going to be over $700,000 over 30 years. $700,000. But it's designed to feel like just another piece of paper when it's the only document you should really pause and actually read. This is the document you need to be like, oh, wait, what? Hold on a second, because they never really tell you that. Sure, they might assume that you're going to do the math, 1,945 times 360 payments, which is how many payments you make over 30 years. But no one ever really does that. You're not going to stop and say, wait, what was that number again? Because it's like I said, it's intimidating. You don't want to hit the brakes because you don't want to be embarrassed or make people feel bad. You're thinking that I just want to get this over with. Everybody's smiling, everyone's excited, the paperwork is flying, so you just keep signing. They flip through all of it like it's junk mail, only pausing on the numbers for just a minute. And what they'll say, maybe you remember hearing them say this: oh, this is just required by law, sign here. Then they rush past it and they want to make it seem like, let's get through the rest of this mountain of documentation. And they're counting on your overwhelm and politeness to keep you from asking questions. Now, here's where it gets really ugly because, according to the National Association of Realtors, Freddie Mac, and other mortgage sources, the average family will either move or refinance at least once every 7 years. So let's take a look at this $300,000 mortgage investment during that 7 year period. Total payments over the first 7 years alone, 136. Oh, so that's actually 163. I got the that's $163,000, not 136. I had a little dyslexia apparently when I was typing this up. But of that, only $27,638,000 or $638 goes towards your loan. What that means is you've got $135,000 in pure profit to the bank. Now, if you were to look at this as a regular investment, most people will say if you put in so much money every month, at the end of that period of time, you have what's the maturity at the maturity date, what you have. So if you put in $1,945 per month and what you have is $27,000 because that's the principal reduction, everything else was wasted on interest. That's a negative 56% annual return on your money. You're losing over half of your investment every single payment. Now, Bernie promised 10 to 12%, good old Bernie Madoff, and he delivered nothing. Your bank is promising wealth building and delivers you this financial disaster. And if you're going to move, you restart the clock again from year one. If you refinance because you might be able to save a few $100 per month, you're restarting the clock again and you're back to the most expensive part of the mortgage. At least Bernie Madoff's victims knew they were getting scammed. This is the part. Homeowners are still convinced they're making a smart investment. And the insult is that, you get your keys, all you wish you want to do is think of how lucky you are, think about the future you're going to build with your family in that home. And all you could say to the title rep and to the mortgage banker, to the realtors, oh, thank you, thank you. And it's all this celebration of you're a homeowner. Look how proud you should be. When the mortgage bank was the only real lucky one. They should be getting on their knees and thanking you for the hundreds of thousands of dollars you just signed up. You signed a contract that you're going to happily give them, in this case, 135 grand in pure profit over 7 years, and no one ever really told you. And this is one of the biggest wealth transfer scams in history. And they've convinced you to thank them for robbing you blind. That's kind of crazy. Next is, there's the part with the negative 56%. All right, so we've covered quite a bit here. I want to take a moment. You're following along good. You're doing well. I don't see anybody's typed in any questions just yet. If you have any questions, make sure that you go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen. And when you get there, there's a little Q&A, a little box that you can type in your questions if you have any that we're covering just so far. All right, now let's go to the Pay Yourself First lie. This is the one where it really starts messing with your head. We've been told basically there are two things: you can work for money or money works for you, right? And you've been told from day one, pay yourself first. Everybody, all the gurus out there, a lot of books on budgeting and for personal finance, every seminar, take 10% off the top, invest it. Let's compound and let interest work its magic. That sounds logical and sounds reasonable. I mean, you work hard, you deserve to get paid first, right? But here's what they're not telling you. First of all, if anybody's ever looked at their paycheck, Uncle Sam's the one who's getting paid first. Second of all, This advice comes from a story published in 1926. The author's name was George S. Clason. The name of the book, Richest Man in Babylon. I mean, you're following advice that's almost 100 years old. Actually, next year will be its 100-year anniversary. Now, what do you think didn't exist back then? I'll tell you what didn't exist: credit cards, consumer debt, the modern debt slavery system that has you by the throat right now, mortgages. They were almost getting introduced, but nothing like what we see today. You know what did exist back then? This is the thing that makes me laugh. Silent movies. Back then, silent movies were the only thing that existed. And how many of us enjoy a good silent movie nowadays? Now, with our only two back in this time, the two financial principles were you can work for money or money can work for you. And that's where this take the 10%, put it aside. I forget the sage's name. I've read the book, and all I can remember is who wrote it and when it was published and what it was about. The problem is that there is a third principle at work when it comes to the concept of money working for money and money working. That third concept is when you're in debt, money is working against you. I'm going to show you how that works with something I call the debt dollar drain. All right, so the debt dollar drain, let's take a look at what I'm talking about. If you remember, the Fortunato income is $110,000 a year. They have just over just over $250,000 in total debt, mortgage, couple cars, handful of credit cards, and they're making $3,133 a month in monthly payments. Now, basically, if they follow themselves, or if they pay themselves first, they follow that advice, they take 10% of their gross or their bring home pay, which is $660 a month, and they would invest it, put it aside, and 30 years after 30 years, they would have $826,000. Where did this come from? There is a company called Dalbar Inc. You're getting all these different types of rates of return when it comes to looking into more mutual funds and different types of investments. The average investor, according to Dalbar Inc., which is a company that's been doing independent research on investing in personal finance, along with many other uh, matters that deal with money, and they said that the average 30-year take home, or excuse me, average 30-year rate of return for the average investor is 7.13%. So if the Fortunatos take their 660 and they put it into an investment that got 7.3% interest over 30 years, they'd have over 826 grand in retirement wealth, which is not bad. I mean, that looks good. And that's exactly what the payment matrix wants you to think. But this is where the debt dollar drain calculation exposes the brutal truth, because all of their extra cash, that $660 a month that they're paying themselves first with, because of that, they're stuck making minimum payments on everything else, meaning that they're going to make minimum payments on their cars, their mortgage, their credit cards. They're going to continue to use their credit cards. They're going to keep cycling through that. And they're counting on the 660 that they're putting away every month to be their answer. They're also counting on never having any type of bubble burst like we've had, no pandemics. Who knows? So the bottom line is that because of that, let's say they never used their credit cards again and they just paid off all their debt. The cars are paid off in 5 years. The mortgage is 30 years, as we said. It's going to take a couple decades, give or take, to pay off their mortgage, or excuse me, their credit cards. And when you add up all their total minimum payments, that's $900,000, okay, to pay off all their debt. And to make matters worse, they're making these payments, or 900 grand, they have to generate that with after tax income, meaning they have to gross about $1.25 million to bring home the 900 grand they're going to pay their debt off with. And this is how the debt dollar drain works. If you divide 1.25 million, which is how much they have to generate in wealth to pay off the 300, and actually it's not 300,000, it's 251,000. So it's even a little worse than that. They have to make $5 for every dollar of debt that they have. So that's like, if you think about it, you're running 1 mile, you're 1 mile an hour on a treadmill moving back at 5 miles an hour. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get launched off the back through the wall behind you. That's exactly what's happening with your wealth when you pay yourself first. It's another focus trap. It's a focus on what this 600 or whatever my 10% might become, and giving you this hope and a prayer that by the time you're done working, that will be there. Meanwhile, you've had to generate $5 in gross income for every dollar in debt that you had. I don't know about you, but that's really, in my opinion, not a real good deal. But if you flip the script and you paid yourself off first, and excuse me, you paid your debt off first and paid yourself last. Remember, I said before, paying yourself last is actually a secret weapon. This is what happens when the Fortunatos do this. Pay themselves last, mean their debts get paid off first, 9 years and 3 months, using what I call the transforming payments into prosperity method. 67 grand in cash on their debt freedom date. So unlike the snowball method we used to teach, transforming payments into prosperity coupled with private family banking is building cash and tax-free wealth for your future while you're paying off debt. In this case, the Fortunatos are debt-free in 9 years and 3 months. They've got 67 grand on top of being debt-free. And then if they double down and they build this system, they continue to follow the plan, they'll have $1.4 million in tax-free wealth by the time they're 65. That's 600,000, right around 500, $600,000 more than they would have if they did get the 7.13% average rate of return on their investments. If they never had a bubble to be burst in 30 years, look back on any 30-year period, especially the most recent 30 years. How many times have we seen the market? What's the opposite for cooperate? How many times have we seen the market kind of interfere with our retirement plans as opposed to cooperate, right? All right. So now this is what the that dollar drain teaches us, that you're able to, there's a better way. There's just a better way. And when it comes to the final lie, the more money lie, this one is where many people find themselves job hopping, career hopping, because all along they think, hey, you know what? If I just make more money, it'll solve all my problems. If you want to be wealthy, you need to make more money. Makes perfect sense. I mean, it seems reasonable. I mean, the more income equals more wealth, simple math, except it's not math at all. It's the payment matrix programming you to keep you running in a hamster wheel forever. Now, I'm going to blow your mind with some research here. Back in 2001, 2002, there was a research project done, and I've taken the numbers and I've taken them and basically brought them with inflation and everything to current. What the research did was it asked people who were making 50 grand a year, hey, how much do you need to make to have the life that you dream about? Their answer is 60. Then they go to ask people who are making 60 grand a year, how much would you need to make to have the life you really dream about? Their answer is 75. Then they asked the people, 75, you get it. They said 100,000. The people making 100 said they need to make 150. And so when you adjust those numbers for inflation, it would be like today asking somebody making $89,000, how much would you have to make to have the life you want? They would tell you 107,000. And the people making 107,000, they would tell you 134. People making 134, they'd say 178. 178, they'd be saying, I need to make 260 grand. So you see the pattern. Every time you ask somebody how much money they need to make, that's always more. And the reason for that is because of three little letters called DTI, the debt to income ratio. Because the lending industry has got everyone convinced, and I've talked about this many times, that a healthy debt to income ratio is between 30 and 36%. The question is healthy for who? I'll get to that in a minute. But if you remember our Fortunato family from the previous lies, their debt to income ratio was 34.2%, right in the healthy range that the banks love. So here's where the reality gets to be really a little frustrating, maybe even infuriating. As your income grows, so does your capacity for debt. So let's see what happens if we apply the debt to income ratio to the new, as an example, to people who are escalating their income by getting higher paying jobs or whatever, but they maintain a 34.2% debt to income ratio. If someone making 89 grand a year, that means they can basically have 2,500 and change in debt payments, and it would seem healthy. For people making 107, over 3,000 a month. For 134 grand a year, almost 4,000 a month. For 178 grand a year, that's 5,000 and change a month. And for 268 a year, that's $7,600 a month. So what happens is you're thinking you're making more money, right? But then you get a bigger house. You buy a nicer car. Why? Because you can quote unquote afford it. When you move into that bigger house, what happens? You wind up in a with higher property taxes. As your income grows, what's also happening? Maybe you're escalating in the tax bracket, meaning you have to pay more in taxes, meaning what's happening is all of this stuff is going on and your gross income's growing, but your net income is becoming smaller and smaller proportionately. And that's why they tell you, it's a healthy amount that you can budget and can afford, and you believe them. And this is what nobody wants you to know. Nobody will ever tell you that the tax bracket and the property taxes and all this other stuff is going to squeeze down your net income, because last time I checked, we're all making payments with net income. So you probably, like I said, moved into a bigger house. That means possibly higher property taxes. So the more money lie slowly strangles your proportionate net income and shrinks your debt while payments are growing, or shrinks while your debt payments are growing. So give a little perspective on that. This is what I've been teaching people for about 20, 25 years now. And when you think of your income, don't think of it as money. Don't think of it as anything but a shovel. It's a shovel that you can either fill a hole with or dig a hole with. And unfortunately, most people are using their shovels to dig holes. And as your income grows and your shovel gets bigger and bigger, what happens? You just start digging a bigger hole. If you have something happen like what happened a few years back with 2008, 2009, when the bubble burst for the housing bubble, or when we experienced the pandemic, what those experiences did is that they caused people to realize that they've been digging a hole with this big shovel, and all of a sudden now they don't have that big shovel anymore. What they have left is a spoon or a much smaller shovel. And so if you experience what I call the shrinking shovel syndrome, try to say that 5 times fast over the past few years, your income decreased, but you realized you had this tractor size hole of debt that you have to keep trying to fill, but your shovel has been shrunk considerably. The thing that I'm saying is that it's not that making more money is bad, because you should never, you should, it's not that you should never try to make more money. What I'm saying is that making more money without changing your paradigm on how to manage your income, like what we're talking about here, making more money without being aware of what the debt to income ratio will do to you, how the budgeting lie sucks money out of your income, sucks gross income out of your wealth accumulation potential. All of these things mean making more money with the right perspective, with the right plan, is much more powerful than just making more money alone, because making more money alone is a trap that could lead you to a pretty significant financial disaster. So, all right, let's see. This is where I think, yeah, when it comes to the bonus, I didn't get a chance to get the slides for the college funding myth. But let me just kind of give you an idea about, I should say, the college funding lie. When it comes to paying for college, most people are being pressured. Young parents, parents in general are being pressured. Hey, you should start saving for your kids' education, right? And so let's keep in mind where all of this is coming from. From the very beginning, lie number two is the budgeting lie. So all you're doing is you're looking at whatever you got left over, and you're trying to figure out how to plan for your future, plan for the kids' education, do all these things that you want to do with your life with this limited amount of money. Now you know that on average, 2 to 3 times, even sometimes 4 times that amount is being lost in interest. So we have to have a different plan. And when it comes to paying for college for your junior, the Fortunato numbers are this. If they take $600 a month, okay, and they put it away for their kids in one of these 529 plans. Now, keep in mind, that's all they have left over. So they're thinking, all right, we'll save for ourselves later. We got to get junior taken care of, or our pair of juniors, or however many children they have, because we have to be responsible parents. And so they take that $600 a month, and let's say they put it in savings. Maybe they got 10 years till their first junior is off to college, and their kids are 4 years apart. So let's say in 10 years, one junior is going to go to college. And then after that, the first junior is graduated. And as the first junior graduates, second junior number two is going to enter college. So we're talking the next 18 years. All right. So now, if they invested $600 a month for 10 years, meaning they got that money put away for when junior number one is going to graduate high school and be off to college. And if they got that 7.13% return, this is where I wish I had slides to put the numbers up there for you, but unfortunately, I didn't get to them. The result is they have just about $105,000 in the college fund when the kid graduates high school, junior number one. And then they have that $600 a month available to help pay for expenses and things that junior may need, because if they put it into a 529 plan, they got 104 grand, almost 105 grand. That money can't be used to fly junior home, can't be used for everything. That has to be used for only qualified higher education expenses. Otherwise, tax penalties will apply. So they're dipping into that $600 a month as well. So let's say they take all of that money, the 600 a month. That means that's $7,200 a year on top of the 105 grand. And over 8 years, because there's 4 years for each school, that 72 grand a year times eight is $57,600 additional capacity to help pay for juniors one and two for their college. That total amount is $162,197. And might as well stop sharing my screen for now. And so, hey, that's not bad, right? I mean, that sounds pretty good. Well, that again, just like paying yourself first, this is what the payment matrix wants you to think, because the brutal reality is that what they don't want to tell you is that in plan A, mom and dad are still drowning in debt because the entire time they've been using all additional money, all extra money to save for junior. They still have the majority of their $250,000 in debt while they're being responsible parents, saving for college, and they're making minimum payments on everything else. So those credit cards, like we talked about, that's going to take. They're still in debt. We don't want to get into too much into the weeds here. 10 years later, instead of putting money for their future away, the 600 bucks away for their future, they put it towards college for the kids. And so now they're ready to pay for kids' college, but they still have all their debt, and maybe they have a few bucks they can start saving for the future. But what does plan B do for them? What I mean by plan B is I mean they follow our plan. Okay. So if you remember, this is the pay yourself last and eliminate debt first. Instead of saving 600 bucks for college, they put that money towards the transforming payments into prosperity plan. The result is that they're completely debt free in 9 years and 3 months. And that when they're debt free, they also have $67,000 in tax free cash available. So now they've got $67,000 in cash, and they've got zero debt, which means that $3,100 per month is now freed up. Okay. So they're debt free. They got 67 grand in the bank. And now they got over $3,000 a month instead of just six, 5 times more to help the juniors with school. Okay, so they start funding college again. The 67 grand is what they have available immediately. 31 grand or 3,100 a month. It's over $37,000 a year. If you multiply that by 8 years, because junior one and junior two, they're going to take 8 years in college, that's almost $300,000 in cash available. That's $297,600. Add the 67 grand that they had to begin with, $364,600 for their kids' support for college. They might actually get one good year out of that with some of these college, some of this tuition. Anyway, that is 2.25 times more than what the traditional approach would have delivered. And it gets even better because the hidden advantages are, if you're uh, getting going to file for a FAFSA. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. We've done it so far 4 times. So they don't they don't care about they don't ask you if you have any cash value life insurance. They don't ask you what your cash flow is like. They don't ask you what um, anything. But if you go and you tell them, I've got $105,000 in a 529 plan, that is going to potentially hinder your child's ability to get more financial aid. So, home equity doesn't count against the the FAFSA. And so in Plan B, not only do they have all this cash flow, they have a four or $500,000 in home equity, and that won't count against them. The flexibility with Plan B, they can handle any curveball life throws at them because they have zero debt obligations and massive cash flow. Just imagine the peace of mind sending your kids to college, while being completely debt free with thousands in monthly cash available. There's almost no expense, no surprise that is going to derail you. And so the college funding needs industry wants you to believe you got to start saving immediately, because that's where this $1.7 trillion in student loans has come from. I mean, that's just insane. That's a lot of money. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be stressed when I put my kids through college. And we're on number 4 now going through college, and it's, we've had our moments, but it's just so much less. Um, you sleep better. So, um, let's go ahead. And what I want to do is I want to tell you that this all obviously has, um, hopefully been helpful. Hopefully you've learned a few things. So I'm going to ask if you have any questions, that the questions of what we covered tonight. And again, my apologies for the lack of slides at the end, because excuse me, it was a actually crazy weekend. So, um, when you think about the lies that we're talking about and what they've done to us, done to the generations that we have, the $1 trillion payment matrix is a real deal. And it didn't become a $1 trillion payment matrix um, overnight. And it's, you think about, where does this money come from? Hopefully, after going through this presentation, this class, you now know. Now, one of the things that I uh, want to do want to basically say is that this is usually part of a presentation when someone hits you with another slide deck, which obviously I wouldn't be able to. But the pitches, they give you like some type of proven system. And we've even done it at times. We've said, hey, we have courses that you pay for and they teach you all this stuff. But I'm going to do something that we've really never really done before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you that I want to give you that calculator and what's called the special YouTube edition of the Transforming Payments into Prosperity ebook that I wrote last year. The book teaches you about what the payment matrix is, how it works, and why you need to get out. We've done about 40 minutes or so on this presentation, going through some of this, but this is what I want to do. Is just, my offer is simple. I'm not going to, do stuff about, deadlines or things like that, all you need to do, and I'm going to put it in the chat, is you need to text Red Pill Me to, where did that number go? Oh, last second. Where did that number go to? There it is. Text Red Pill Me to 602-357-8249. There you go. And let me see what we have going on with our friends at, where did that window go? Sometimes two 27-inch screens aren't enough. Um, So, if you have questions, I'd love to answer them. And if you don't, I'm going to let you get back to your Tuesday night. So if you have questions, put them in the question box. If you have any comments you want to make, otherwise, all you need to do is if any of this stuff kind of resonated with you, kind of hit a chord or two, and you're thinking, what do I do next? Text Red Pill Me to 602-357-8249, and uh, you'll have some tools to help you get the perspective on all of this type of stuff we just talked about tonight. And they're on me. So I don't see any questions. And therefore, I'm going to simply uh, give you guys back the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you being here. And God bless. Stay cool. It's getting hot out there these days. It's the end of June, but stay cool, and we'll see you next month on the next Red Pill Tuesday. We're going to expose more stuff.